So I'll go ahead and introduce you guys a little bit to this session. So in here, we are going to be meeting Transform Fresno's Youth Leadership Development Team, and hear directly from youth leaders during the session. They're going to be introducing themselves and speaking on their personal connection to the work of Transform Fresno. We'll also get some opportunities to participate in a youth-friendly community mapping activity where we're going to learn about asset mapping and visual narrative. So really exciting stuff we got going on. And with that being said, I'll go ahead and pass it off to our panelists.
Awesome, welcome. So the name on the screen says Kato, that's me, but obviously I'm here with a beautiful team of youth leaders as well as my co-lead in this work, Olga. Welcome to our session on youth perspectives. You'll hear from all of us today, every voice here, and I will have a little bit of time here soon to uplift folks that aren't in the space but have been really integral in the work that we've led. We hope to give you kind of a picture of what we do as we are year-round functioning and connecting with youth in the project area as a community engagement piece. We want to let you know ahead of time kind of what we'll be up to today in our session. We did have some technical difficulties at the beginning, as is still the case almost 3 years into our little virtual life with this pandemic, and it happens to the best of us. But today we are going to tell you a little bit about the program, some background in case we are a new project for you. We're going to go over some community agreements because today you're in our space and we're kind of running this as if you're in one of our youth meetings, right? We meet every week, we feed each other, we drink some water, we have some community agreements, so we'll go over those. Gabe, one of our youth leaders, is going to kind of take us through that. We're going to hear from our youth directly, some personal statements, because when we talk about youth leadership in a space like this, their whole personhood is what we're getting at. It's not just their ability to speak publicly, it's not just their GPA or the issues that they care about, but it's also things they like to do for fun and their cultures and where they come from. So we're going to hear some really powerful testimony today about where they come from and who they are. And then as Leo shared, we're going to go over together a very youth-friendly kind of data and community assessment tool, a community asset mapping tool that hopefully will get some of the attendees involved if they're comfortable sharing, and also talk about kind of a more traditional model versus a way where we can lean into thinking about our strengths. And then if time allows, given the technical difficulties and the shortness of our session, we have a few calls to action and some information about how to get involved, and we have a little bit of a closing to offer up. But that is our agenda for the day. And with that, we will move on to talking through some community agreements. So I'm going to pass it over to Gabe to just explain a little bit about what that is, and then we'll ask from the group to kind of share a few of those.
Hello everybody, my name is Gabriel Hardo. Community agreements are things we would like to see, not only in this space, but in the space online, basically to help ourselves grow and to help ourselves be able to present this presentation, and for those in the chat to be able to interact with us quickly and very effectively. And it's going to be a living document, so it in any way, in any time, it's going to be able to be edited. And you doing this, we are all going to choose to agree to these certain things. So I'm going to start us off with one. I'm going to go with "Don't Yuck Our Yum," which is basically if we are all going to present different ideas here today, and even some of those in the chat or those of you at home. So we are not going to disagree with your ideas or to denounce your ideas, as long as you guys don't denounce our ideas. I'm going to open it up to my colleagues here if they have any, and those in the chat or anyone that is available online if they have any community agreements to offer us today.
Thank you, Gabe. So yeah, so a community agreement is kind of us as a community. We're a community today of 12 participants, and what of 9, 10, 11 to the 12 of us here, just agreeing how we want to treat each other. And Gabe shared one that we often use in our space: "Don't yuck the yum." So maybe someone has a view that's a little different than yours, or someone really likes pineapples on pizza, it's not really your thing. We want to keep a kind of open mind and kind of respect those differences. Anyone else in the space want to offer up a community agreement, a way we want to treat each other?
One diva, one mic.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Des. So Des offered up one diva, one mic, and that's really important, especially over Zoom, but in person as well. One diva, one mic often refers to one person talking at a time. It's a more fun way to say it. Anybody else or anyone on Zoom that wants to offer one up in the chat?
Be respectful and mindful when you're giving your idea. It may sound a little different, but it's still an idea, and we ask that you do respect that.
Nice, thank you, Yoshabel. So be mindful and respectful kind of is the core of that idea. And you went on to share, especially when you're sharing ideas and kind of going back and forth. Awesome. I think this is a really good place to start with the community agreements. And one thing that Gabe brought up is that in community, this is a conversation, right? We don't just make these agreements and say this is it. So if at any time during the conversation, something comes up and it doesn't sit right with you, we can come back to this language and say, hey, remember when we talked about not yucking the yum? This kind of yucked it for me a little. Or, hey, we talked about being respectful and mindful earlier. Can we come back to that? That's something we do in this space to respect each other. Oh, Marcy just uplifted listen. Thank you for that. So in the space, we often talk about active listening too. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So we'll add listen to the community agreements. Are we all in agreement for that one? Yeah. Cool. KB, did you have one?
Yeah, step up and step back.
Oh, awesome. I love step up and step back. Step up and step back. And that one kind of has to do with participation. So Marcy was just a great example of our attendees stepping up. So we have folks who love to talk and we have some shy folks and everything in between. And everyone's voice is really important to include. And so to step up means to kind of challenge yourself to step into your voice and raise it up and participate. And stepping back also means to know when maybe you need to kind of hold it back, let other folks have a chance to step up. And it's just a balance. It's always a balance because we want to hear from you. So yeah, step up and step back. I think this is a really good place to leave the community agreements for now in the interest of time. But if we ever think of more, we can definitely put them in the chat. We can speak them to each other. We can bring them up in the moment. And Brandy added, ask for clarification and ask questions to understand more rather than react. I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. And moving on from our community agreements, we're going to give y'all just a little bit of program background in case we're new to y'all. We'll be talking about, especially in some of the personal statements, folks' connection to the work. And I want you to know kind of where we're coming from in that. So yeah, a little bit of program background. In terms of timeline and how we run, right, we're year round. So in the summer, we put on workshop series. In the fall, we do recruitment and we run a cohort of this size that kind of changes in shape and size depending through the winter and the spring season. And our young people are going to experience things like team building and mentorship. They're going to learn the history of Transform Fresno, leadership skill building, effective storytelling, and also some basics around environmental justice and outreach strategies. And along with that, we realize that their time is very valuable. Their input and the vulnerability of sharing their lived experience is valuable too. And therefore they receive a stipend for their participation because this is their time, this is their labor, both emotionally and physically and mentally. And that's just a little snapshot of our program background. There's a lot more that you can learn on the Transform Fresno website, as well as a really beautiful article done on the EOC website and some pretty cool videos on the Youth Leadership Institute website to learn a little bit more. But again, in interest of time, I'm going to move us on to some personal statements and some background. So we're going to meet the team. And before we meet the team, I would just love to uplift in this space a few folks who aren't really going to be represented today in the narrative, but need to be uplifted. So for one, and I think she may even be an attendee today, thank you for being here, is Nicole Hutchings, who has been a wonderful help on the administrative side of this project. Myself and Ms. Olga are kind of on the ground with our youth, making the program happen day to day, but there's a lot that goes into this that she is a real key decision maker for, especially when we got the program off the ground. So thankful to her, as well as Shermua, who is a similar component from Youth Leadership Institute. So thankful for both of them. I also want to send out some thanks to Sophia Bautista of the Long Beach office and Youth Leadership Institute, who helped with the template of this PowerPoint. I like to think it's pretty cute. I like a cute PowerPoint. So thankful to her, as well as JV Villarreal, who helped a lot with the tech components and the driving and the rides, and also Ziana Maynard, who's our Friday Night Live coordinator at Edison High School, the main high school in the project area in the 93706, who's helped with recruitment and making connections during a really difficult time of hybrid and COVID programming when it was really hard to get on campus and reach young people, which is the goal of our project. So thankful to all of them. And now let's meet the team that's in the space. I'll first be passing it off to my colleague and coworker, Miss Olga, to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ms. Olga Moya. I am the Recreation Administrator for Fresno Street Saints. It is a pleasure to assist and have the opportunity to work with Youth Leadership Institute and being able to help the youth here have a voice in their community to make a change and hopefully in the future be one of our leaders to lead Fresno to the right direction and make the change.
Thank you. And I'm the one that's been talking at you all this time. My name is Cato. I use they, them, theirs pronouns. I'm a senior program coordinator with Youth Leadership Institute, and I coordinate the Transform Fresno program with Ms. Olga. Yes, I will pass it on to our youth leaders now because that's what y'all are here for. I'm just gonna look at the chat really quick. Yes, hi Nicole. And with that, I'll be passing it to Ivory.
Good morning, my name is Ivory Hadigi. My pronouns are she, her. I'm 17 and I go to Edison High. Before I tell you why I care about Transform Fresno, I want to tell you a little about me. I'm Mexican. I've lived with my great grandma since I was a baby. I have 4 siblings and I love dogs. I want all types of dogs when I grow up, and I really want a monkey. When I first heard about Transform Fresno's Youth Leadership Development Program, I was just curious about what it was. And when I came, it was really fun and a nice place to be at because I don't like being home early. Being here is fun and I get to learn new things. I care about the Transform Fresno work because learning more about it means I can share about the difference we all want to make for our neighborhood and Fresno in general. And for that, I pass it to Raven.
Hello everyone, my name is Raven. My pronouns are she, they, and I am 17 years old going to Edison High School. I would like to share a little bit about myself that I feel would let you know me better. For starters, my ethnicity is very significant to me because it shows where I come from. It gives a picture of how I live and how I'm going through my daily life. A lot of people might think coming from my background is a negative thing, but in my opinion, it's a very positive thing. We have a lot of culture, like music, food, everything. I'm very proud to be an African American. I have 2 sisters and 3 brothers. They are a very important part of my life. A lot of what I do and how I feel comes from them. I feel like you can't really have me without seeing them. Our personalities really correlate a lot. Another important part of my life are my hobbies. They include a lot of creative type things like art, making things, and telling stories. It's fun. I am also very passionate about animals and their rights. I feel like they don't get much love as they should. They're just a blessing. What brought me to this program was Diana inviting me here. And the first time I came to see what it was about, it was a very positive environment. The reason why I came back was because I feel like that everyone was saying you're doing here was really good, and I wanted to contribute in some way. I'm very passionate about the West Side and to make it a better place. When I was a kid, I wasn't able to go anywhere outside, like the parks and stuff. I had to come as far as Tower District to go to parks. And even now, my little brother, who's 7 years old right now, can't go outside very much because it's not that safe. So I want to make the West Side feel like a safer place for kids, animals, and everyone. And with that, I pass it on to Liz.
Hello everyone, my name is Liz. I use her and she pronouns. I'm 17 years old. I'm inspired by saying add more greenery to improve the scenery. And with that, I would like to talk about gardens and trees. I like how trees give shade around neighborhood, especially when it's hot. I like seeing plants in season. They're like people who change every once in a while. Having more access to green space is in general would make the community much more prettier and help make less pollution. Many stores here have to get their fruits and veggies from all around, and to fix that, it would be nice to have more fruit trees around Southwest Fresno. That could help many people around that don't really have money to get by to have fruit every day. Like, let's say one person says, I don't got no lettuce, they could just go to a neighborhood garden instead of having to go to a store that's far away or expensive to get that one thing. With little gardens everywhere, it would inspire people to cook more. For some, cooking even one meal can be a big cost. Cooking with fresh food and homemade meals can feel like you achieved something. You connected to it when you planted the fruits and veggies, you cooked the meal, and so the food came from you. When I'm not cooking, my connection to plants is that they're my friends when I don't have any. The trees never leave, there's someone to talk to, and they make nice shelter for the animals. Because of all this, it made me want to get involved with Transform Fresno. And with this, I'll pass it on to Yoshiko.
Good morning, my name is Yoshiko. I go by she, her, and hers. I'm 15 years old. I currently don't go to school. I like to play sports. Tackle football right now is my favorite. My favorite color is black because my life philosophy is if it's not black, then it's black. I have 7 siblings. I live in a single parent home. I like to draw and I like painting. I like watching anime. Demon Slayer is my favorite. I like hanging out with people, and that's all you guys really need to know. I'm really passionate about young children having a safe place to live because when I was growing up, I really have that. I joined Transform Fresno because I do have a concern for the young people walking alone or on the streets at night. When I get older, I would like to be a safe place for young teenagers who battle suicide. I personally went through suicidal thoughts, and I had someone with me to help me get through it. It doesn't matter if you feel alone, there's always somebody there for you. You can talk to your mom, you can talk to a friend, you can talk to someone you trust. Because if I can get through it and the other kids out there who struggled, and they made it, then you can make it too. And with this, I'll pass it to Gabriel.
Hello, everybody. As I said before, my name is Gabriel Hardo, 18 years old. I go to Edison High School as a senior. I use he, him, his pronouns. And to tell you why I'm in Transform Fresno, I'll first tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a partner in my community, and I'm a leader in Transform Fresno. One of the reasons I'm here is that the leads of this program and the programs of YLI really helped me advance in my own life. They constantly say that I can go on for hours and hours about the things that I think need to be done in the city to help improve it. But one thing I hate seeing is that knowing that I'm leaving soon to go to college and knowing that opportunities get often left in the dust where I'm from, I want to make sure that youth and people coming through this line and younger generations get the same opportunities that I ended up getting. And with this, I'd like to pass it on to KB.
Good morning, everyone. My name is KB. My pronouns are him and me, and I'm 17 years old, and I go to Edison High School. In my free time, if I'm feeling energetic, I like to play football, basketball, or go boxing with my friends and lift weights with them. If I'm feeling lazy, I'll watch anime or play video games with my little brother. I like dogs, especially Huskies, Labradors, or German Shepherds, or big dogs in general. When I get me a big house, I'm gonna get a Canadian Black Wolf, a whole pack. I watch a lot of Disney movies and listen to a lot of old songs. And I think that tells people that I'm old. I see changing Fresno. I see changing Fresno as important because in a sense, I don't know. There's a lot of parks that are too far from my house. There's one near my house that has uneven grass where you can't play football without getting hurt. There's a lot of stray dogs and spiders that want to make it so there's better parks.
Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Destiny. I go by she, her, sometimes they. I'm 17 years old and I currently attend Edison High. An issue I care about is a lot of kids who are being unheard, especially when they can be battling a mental illness. The fact that people sometimes brush it off as doing it for attention, or they have no reason to be depressed, but they have clothes on their backs, food in their mouth, and a roof over their head. You're not thinking of the whole kid. They're not crying wolf, they could be battling a mental illness. I want to sit down and listen to others. To be an adult one day that kids can trust and be a safe space that I never got as a kid. And so in the future, I see myself being a safe space for people. I like people who might not have a safe space to sleep. I want to see people get the help that they need and to be someone that helps those people strive to get what they want in life. There's no limits to nothing. You can reach for the sky if you want it that bad. To be a part of a structure within a community to help provide what people would need, especially when they are less motivated, is something that will put me at ease in the future. When I heard about this program, it was an opportunity to be in a program where they get free rides, be me, and be engaging, and it's entertaining. It's hands-on. It's really changed my mindset to be faced with many predicaments and still be able to come together in the community like the one at Sunset is a great thing. And with this, I pass it to Brianne.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. My name is Brianne. I'm 17 and I'm a senior at the Christian school. Because I take an interest in state and local government, I decided to join the workshop. One of the things that we had done in the summer workshop is we walked to one of the projects that we have, which is a community garden. We had played a game and we were supposed to tally off different themes. One of them was trash and numbers of trees, which is probably the most significant one that I had, was because there was a pretty large amount of trash that was just everywhere. Like you can't walk probably a foot and not see any trash. And the other thing was the lack of trees, and the trees are really good for us. So it did kind of bring up some questions in our head as to why there weren't so many. Once we got to the garden, they began talking about redlining and what a food desert is. And the topics interested me very much so. So I decided to continue on further and join the year-long cohort. And I'll pass it to Jasper.
Hello, my name is Jasper. I go by Vicky, she pronouns. I'm 15 and I go to Edison High School. I'm Mexican, I'm proud to be Mexican. I'm passionate about our food, our music, and also our traditions, even though some people will be like, oh, that's so extra. I like to talk about people who've been there for me, for example, my sister and my mom. Even though we argue, we're still pretty close to each other. My brother had been in juvenile since my age, and it really brought us closer. I like to talk about a big issue, not the biggest I know. It's the way people treat our houseless community. People say this people say like just get a job, it's not that hard. And they don't really understand if someone has an addiction or when they started being homeless as a kid because of family issues. It personally doesn't feel nice or good to know someone your age is living worse than you and doesn't have someone for them. It would be nice to provide a house for them. And Ms. Oka had firstly introduced this program to me and it interested me. And as I went to meetings, it interested me a lot because I grew up in this place and I care for it and I like to make a change.
All right, so snap it up for yourselves, please. So we wanted to purposefully take a good amount of time just introducing you all to the folks who are in the space, to each of our leaders as whole people that not only carry with them a really rich lived experience of being from the project area or going to school in the project area, but also having a really deep passion for so many of the issues that intersect along so many lines of power and culture that is represented in the project area. And I know y'all can't see the chat as good, but Brandy says, y'all are awesome, with an exclamation point. And Marcy says, nice meeting you, with an exclamation point. Thank you, attendees in the chat. We will be moving on now to a bit of an activity that we've been doing. It kind of connects to themes that we've been discussing year-round around tools, around the way that we move our lived experience with data and science and decision-making, and how we kind of merge those things together. So maybe with a shout out in the chat, you could use perhaps an emoji in the chat or in sentences if you're feeling comfortable. If anyone is familiar with need-based or asset mapping in the chat, let me know. Could be cool if you are. But mapping out our communities is a tool that we have used in this space a few different times in a few different ways. And with the rest of our time today, not a lot with our little technical difficulty at the beginning, but that is okay. Hopefully we'll be able to share a space together again. We're gonna do a little bit of this activity. So I wanted to share a little bit of context, and then Yoshabel and Brianne will also be kind of helping me with that. Oh, awesome. Brandy is very familiar, it seems, in having learned asset-based community development a number of years ago, and confirms that it's so important. Awesome. But yeah, so when we think about why or kind of how to use mapping tools, there's a more traditional approach regarding thinking just about needs that we see in our community. And you kind of heard even some of those needs in our youth statements. And it's important to know about needs, and it's kind of easy sometimes to see those needs as they appear. That's our lived experience. I need this, I'm lacking this. We can see it as individuals and as communities, as small as 12 people or as large as an entire zip code. But also there are assets, also known as strengths, right? When I first presented the word assets, there was only a few of us that could really like try to define it. Asset might be one of those words that kind of gives us the like, ooh, I might need a dictionary for that one. It does it to me too. But it really helps me to think of assets in terms of strengths. And again, community is one of those words that can give me that little, do I need a dictionary for that? I use that word all the time, but when we talk about it in this space, you know, it can start with one person and you think of all the ways you are connected, right? So right now, like we did with community agreements, we are connected by a community of folks sharing this space for the summit. We are connected as the Transform Fresno Youth Leadership Development Program, youth leaders, mentors, and attendees of our summit right now. We're a very small community. And also, as represented by our statements, we very clearly represent intersecting communities based on culture, based on geography. That's a really beautiful thing. And when it comes to moving change or transformation, as we're talking about today at the summit, we got to kind of assess our community and see where that change is coming from. And there's a really beautiful history of strengths and assets, very unique to Southwest Fresno, that we've been talking about in our space. And so I'm gonna kind of turn it over to Yoshabel for a second here to kind of set us up for this kind of youth-friendly tool when it comes to asset mapping. And she's gonna kind of talk about where we started, because we did start in that needs space, because we wanted to assess our community, we wanted to see what they were thinking about, what they were talking about, kind of just naturally. So Yoshabel, I'm just gonna hand it over to you for now, kind of starting at that smaller scale.
I spoke to some of the youth at the Sunset Community Center because I'm not the only one who lives in this community that sees these needs. There are others out there who see, they experience these needs, and they can also talk about them probably better than I can. Some of what they said was shocking. I asked mostly younger children, mostly elementary, and even they need to talk about these needs. I have with me a list of what I asked some of these children. A 10-year-old boy wants to open a garage to help the homeless people with their bikes whenever they're out of tires, or like air for their tires. A young 9-year-old boy wants safer places to live. Someone in their 20s wants unity with all communities regardless of the racial background, because with unity there can be a change in our neighborhood and city. A young 12-year-old girl asked for more parks, safer streets, and better housing. And another person in the 20s said more mentors for children, teenagers, and young adults, reaching out to them because the kids most likely know about gangs and already have it in their mind that they want to be in one. Someone who would listen to the kids and be there for them so they have better opportunities, free haircuts at youth function, making children feel wanted and feel like somebody cares about them. He also wants this mostly for children who are in and out of foster care, and this is also based off of his personal experience.
So one thing that I think is really powerful to just point out really quickly, because we're running out of time, and I remember last year we got kicked out right on the nose, sorry, Brianne, is that some of those quotes came from folks younger than the folks in here, and our ages in this space range from 15 to 18. And some of the youth that make up this program that couldn't be here today are as young as 13. And I just want to emphasize the fact that, again, like some of the folks that move some of the most decision-making power for Transform Fresno, right, are, you know, governmental bodies, are, you know, foundations, a lot of money and a lot of decision-making power. However, the folks with the most lived experience and the folks that move some of the most people power have this knowledge embedded in their lived experience regardless of access to the vocabulary or the education that some of the decision makers have. And that's been, I think, some of the most tender and I think vulnerable work that I think Ms. Olga and I have been able to have in partnership with the youth, right? We're not here as teachers, we're here as partners to kind of tease this out alongside them. And if we're not getting kicked out right away, I will be passing it to Brianne.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's really important to emphasize hearing about our needs from our community specifically because, well, typically we are the ones that do live here and we experience everything. We see all the different needs and how we can like get them to the table where we need them. So I feel like it's a really big deal because it's really the only thing we have when you live here and maybe somebody that's in power maybe doesn't live here, it's a different view. And with that, it's also really important to emphasize the things that we do have and that we can use. And Kiddo will be helping us talk about this.
Yeah, so when we first introduced the idea of assets, we kind of talked about it like tools in a tool belt. When we focus a little too much on just needs, like we have here in the traditional approach notes, it's easy for folks outside of the community to enter a community, make their observations, and in identifying those needs, defining a community as needy and kind of leaving it there. But if we prioritize the community of voice, gather those observations and identify those strengths or assets, we're defining a community as resourceful, and those are points for advocacy. And so at this point, we would be switching over to a very interactive tool that we typically use for the mapping, but I think we may be getting kicked out of our Zoom room anytime. And I would really just love for y'all to hear some of the community assets that our youth have identified. So would anyone like to offer up just their asset? You don't have to explain the asset quite yet, but just what your asset is. Raven?
I would like to say my asset is the library next to my school and a mural that I see every day walking to school.
So we have a public library and a mural. Yoshibel?
The youth voices.
Youth voices. Ivory?
The art building at Edison.
Art building at a public high school. Des?
A very special person to me.
A very special person to you. Liz?
A store, Fresh Co.
A grocery store. Jasper?
Miss Olga.
Miss Olga, trusted adult mentor. Gabe?
The Fresno street fans, especially an old coach of mine.
Fresno Street Saints and specifically an old coach. KB?
Think White Park.
Think White Park. Anybody else have an asset they want to uplift? Brianna?
Stop the Violence Fresno.
Stop the Violence Fresno. And again, in the interest of time, we're uplifting some of those assets because I invite folks in the chat as well to uplift some of their own community assets. Think of things that are even within a 4-block radius of where you live. These assets can include things like institutions and organizations, available activities and community events, associations, artist groups, and media. And sometimes these assets, right, they're people, they're places and things, but also sometimes they're things you can't touch and they're still a strength, right? I really, really appreciated the very first time Yoshibel, you want to wave? It's kind of hard with the masks to tell who's who. I really, really deeply appreciated the very first time Yoshibel shared that one of her like community assets to her was youth voices. And because that's something that you don't necessarily can see or touch without thinking about it. But in the history of Transform Fresno, which is something that we learn about in this space together, community leadership and a long history of community leadership is part of how we got to Transform Fresno in the first place. This funding, this historic process wouldn't have come to us without that kind of leadership. And that leadership is intergenerational. It's not just the folks that came before you, but it's also you all that are here today. And it's the cohort that came before you, and it's the cohorts that are going to come after you. That's a really beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing that. That warms my heart. So yes, I'm seeing in the chat from Leo, it's okay if you go over time a bit. We have no sessions at 12. Well, that's cool. I love when we're not kicked out of Zoom. Awesome. I love when we're not kicked out of Zoom. We still probably, in the interest of time, will not move on to the more interactive piece, just because I would love to share a few little updates at the end here. regarding ways that y'all might be able to get involved, and to uplift some folks who aren't here with us today. So we have two youth leaders who have been with us for basically the whole year, but we're not able to make the summit today because of like scheduling and life things. But Yaretsi and Jerome are two youth leaders who have been with us for basically the whole year. And they have put in a lot of like work and spirit into this. So I just want to offer up some snaps for them. Every individual person like brings so much of their spirit and their self into the space. So credit where credit is due. In terms of ways to get involved moving forward, please stay tuned to Transform Fresno's social media as well as their website, because we will be doing some community service and outreach completely designed by the youth based on the issues that are most tender to them in the spring, like this late spring and summer. And some of that was like directly designed by Jerome, Yoretsi, Brianne, Yoshabel, and Jasper specifically, some youth who have been with us the longest. So I just wanted to uplift that in this space as well, since Yoretsi and Jerome couldn't be with us here today. There's also a handful of youth who joined us a little later in this year. I'm thinking Maurice, I'm thinking Serenity, I'm thinking Nevea, I'm thinking Fatima. And for some youth, again, we're a community engagement partner. We're engaging our community of youth in this project area. And I'm all about quality over quantity. And Miss Olga, like, she's a quality person. She's a quality woman. And like every person that is in here is like a quality leader in their community. And so every like touch point, every person that comes into a meeting, even for one session, I just want to uplift their name into this space because they're a part of how we got here. So just uplifting that. And with that, checking the time, just out of respect for people's time. Okay, cool. And then turning it over to the floor really quick. Is there anything anybody would like to say before we kind of do a little closing? Cool. Let's check the chat. We have from Brandy. I agree. Community voices are a huge asset, as well as groups like this that are uplifting community voices and working to bring people to the table who haven't been. True. We talk a lot about how we can institutionalize or keep it that way, that you can be at the table always and not just sometimes, right? Very important. And then folks who are with us as attendees, and this is an invitation also to my participants here and myself. We know that we talked about a lot of things today, right? You heard some really rich personal statements, and they involved things as light as monkeys and as heavy as some like really potentially like traumatic like past life experiences. We talked about community assets, but when we talk about assets, there can also be a shadow of the needs we know that are kind of behind them. We're talking about really bright futures, but those also like kind of talk about those shadowy pasts. And so we don't know what kind of wound that could have opened up for you. And so we just want to offer up just a short little grounding here to make sure you have like kind of your breath under you, your feet under you, and you're ready to go on to whatever the rest of your Saturday is, whether it's to our fellow summit presenters at the rest of the sessions, or to your lunch, or whatever you're doing with your Saturday. But if you are joining us via Zoom or in person, I'm going to recommend that you gently close your eyes. You let out a little sigh. Let go of some tension between your shoulders. If you're like me and you like to sit in a kind of funny little posture, make sure both of your feet are flat on the floor. Think about actually feeling the ground underneath you. It might not be actual earth. You might be in a conference room like us and it's some super intense cement. That's okay. But maybe think about, your feet through your shoes, actually feeling the ground under you for once. You might need to press against the floor for a second to really feel it there. Wake up your thighs a little. Kind of relax your hands against the tops of your legs. Maybe it feels better to put them closer to your knees or kind of against your thighs, wherever it feels like less work. You want to just let your body relax. Just let it relax. And you're going to take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, just on your own time. It's not a count. There's not a right or wrong way. Just whatever feels easy. In through your nose, out through your mouth. gentle little moment just to rest in your seat. And whatever little pace of breath you found, we're gonna take one breath together. And on the exhale, you're gonna make an audible sigh, something like, like it's been nice. So we're gonna inhale together for 3 and then an audible little sigh. Ready? We're gonna inhale. 1, 2, 3, exhale. And you can kind of blink open your eyes if you've kept them closed the whole time. Give yourself a little shake, maybe a little hug, whatever kind of wakes you back up into your body because we let ourselves rest. And thank you for your time. Little snaps all around for everyone. I can't overstate how much these youth prepared for today. With the timing and everything, we didn't get through all of our community mapping tool. We actually had a whole other like little module of a presentation to do today, but in the interest of respecting their time, I don't want us to go like over time. But they prepared a lot for today and I'm incredibly proud of them. And I just want to say that, you know, to everybody and in front of all of them. So yes, thank you all for your time as well attending today. And yeah, have a great little Saturday.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, all the attendees, for coming into this session. There will be no sessions at 12 today, but just to give all attendees a little forecast on what's to come for today's summit. So at 1 p.m., our 2 sessions are going to be a session introducing us to the Gladiator Welding Program. And then we will also have a little Cooking Matters demonstration at 1 as well today from Fresno Metro Ministry. So stay tuned for all of that stuff and we'll see you guys after lunch.